Are you surviving or just living? They're two very different things. And for me, it's something I talk a lot about because when you are truly living, it's such a different way of life. And a lot of us actually really only know what it is to survive and never consider what does actually really living mean. For me, it's all about energy. It's a space in which you're coming from. But there's some certain things that I just want to share with you that I found along my journey really pinpoint where I'm at with that question. Because sometimes you can really hide in the surviving without realizing it. For me, it comes back to energy. And I think when you start to realize these things energetically, you can't lie to yourself, you can't be dishonest. You really then get the opportunity to check in and maybe readjust. Why am I doing certain things? Or what are the things that maybe I want to stop doing or even start doing that's actually more so true for you? It's coming from a place of actually living, feeling alive, feeling fulfilled, feeling already complete. The difference for me is when it's survival energy, it's doing things like to avoid pain. You're chasing outcomes to feel enough. You're needing validation, security, and certainty externally. You're telling yourself that once I get X, then I'll relax. So it's these things that really play on us. And then the way in which we go about certain things and areas of our life comes from such a different space. It's like being needy and then you wanting somebody to make you feel happy, to feel enough. That sort of stuff. You notice that in external relationships. What's happening is the relationship within yourself is one that is already lacking that sense of aliveness, that sense of fulfillment for no reason. I find that when, survival, you start to realize is driven by that lack of need, you see the things that you've placed power in externally, like you've got a need for money to feel safe, or need for success to feel worthy, or need for love to feel whole. These are really prominent things I see that show up for a lot of people, but rather than being honest about it, which I know can sometimes feel a bit scary because to be that honest with yourself, sometimes like, well, where's that going to take me? I don't want to go and address the monster hiding in the cupboard because I don't want to end up having to face that. I want to having to deal with it. But you're, by not facing it, inviting a life of lack and need. So why wouldn't you want to address that? So you can probably start to experience something very different. For me, that energy in life, when you start to change it up and the living energy is really a place where you're moving from fulfillment, from love. But you start to notice that action comes from fullness, not deficiency. You start to notice that you're doing things because you love the doing. It's not doing as a means to an end. You're letting life move you instead of forcing outcomes. And that's a big one. Like for me, being moved by life. And what's that mean? It means being moved by my soul, being moved by what's true for me. It creates such a clarity and a way forward that it really takes my attention off outcomes and results. I'm not tied to what's going to happen. I'm not tied to hope. I'm not waiting. I can rest and feel at ease. Sometimes I've noticed in the past in my life when I haven't felt fulfilled or life was about external outcomes and results, when I rested, I felt guilty. When I slowed down, I didn't feel at ease. I got more concerned with life and what was happening. So for me, it started to enter this era of like, there was this almost peace before proof. Like I had peace. I didn't need to go and find peace and prove it to myself anymore. I didn't need to go and find success or accomplish things to feel enough. It's very different and it's not lazy. I just want to move from the feeling and not go and action things and do things, from a place of that's lack energy. And that's where a lot of people are driven from the need to go and accomplish and have success and attain things so they don't feel the lack of it all. For me, it just feels really clean and pure when it's the other way around and you're moving from the energy of already feeling alive, that energy of living. For me, I find that such a difference that firstly, you must be honest with yourself. You got to go and look at where in my life am I doing things out of need or lack? If I'm honest, am I going to a job that I really love, or am I doing it a means to an end because I don't feel safe and secure in myself, and I'm hanging for that paycheck every week? Am I in relationships that rather than being honest, I'm people pleasing because I don't want to feel alone? These are things that you want to ask yourself in life that can sometimes give you some like insight and feedback to why you're feeling lack, why you're feeling like something's missing. And it doesn't mean all those areas of your life have to change. I think sometimes when we address things like this, people get concerned. They're like, oh my God, if I address that, then I'd be out of a job or I'd have to leave the relationship or something like that. And that's not true. But you don't know that's true yet. It's just your mind making an idea of what you think is going to happen when you start to get real with yourself. And just be aware that's your mind thinking ahead. You don't know what's going to happen in the next moment when you get real with yourself. You might just start to feel that realness, feel that more depth of connection. And then when you're in that job or in that relationship, whatever it may be, you start coming from that place and you start to notice the relationship deepens with you. You start to notice the job gets more effortless and results start to come from a different space. So it doesn't mean that you got to go and change up your life. I think some people, when they start to do self awareness work or they start to have these honest conversations with themselves, the reason why they don't do that, address that monster in the cupboard, hiding behind all the thoughts and what's really driving you, is because they're so fearful of what may change, and unfortunately humans, as much as I love change and embrace it now, I love the unknown. I also know there's a period in my life where that scared me, where I'd much rather stay in the comfort of what I knew, even if it was uncomfortable. Like, who's doing that? Who knows that they're in a situation or a circumstance somewhere in their life, they're actually not happy, they're uncomfortable, but it's what they know. And it's like, I'd rather sit with this than go and face the unknown. A lot of people are making that decision day to day. I see that a lot. I've been working with people for 15 years. And I think from my experience in life where I was just scared to go and embrace the unknown, I think that's one of the things that keeps people really trapped because they're scared of not being able to find certainty in the uncertain, which is the unknown. They're looking from certainty from what they know. So they stick with their life and what they know of their life rather than going and venturing a little bit outside their comfort zone to explore the possibilities. But this is where we feel alive. This is where we realize, oh, I was never trapped. So, yeah, there's some really powerful things in that. And I feel like when you start to realize this, you start to come back to feeling fulfilled for no reason, which I spoke about before. And I just want you to realize that feeling fulfilled for no reason isn't something that's about an outcome. It's not about a result. It's actually a feeling that's our natural state before the conditioning that we received, that we've grown up with, that we see outside of ourselves, that we see in the world, that we've got to go and achieve things to feel fulfilled. We've got to go have things. We've got to attain things. And that is a lie. Lack is something that we actually learn. Our natural state, as I said, is fulfillment. It's been there all along. We've actually learned to experience lack. And it's come from this incessant sort of idea that we'll only be enough when. Like, your parents may have been working away at life and taught you that only when you're successful, only when you have enough money, only when you're in the right relationship, only when you got a family, only when you've ticked all these boxes can you feel fulfilled. But they all come with reason, not the fulfillment for no reason. So we start to realize things like that. And the thing then to start to take away is that you don't find fulfillment. It's something that is already there within yourself, right? And it's not that most people aren't unfulfilled, they're just disconnected. And I think when you realize that connection with yourself and coming back to who you are and experiencing more stillness, slowing down a bit and deeply connecting with yourself, you're going to start to feel that aliveness that I'm talking about rather than going about life disconnected and doing things from lack. So it changes the way you move. When I feel like when you act from fulfillment, results happen, but they don't own you. Like, you don't end up attached to what you achieve because you're already fulfilled. So you become free to experience even the amazing things that start to happen in life. You don't become like, you don't achieve something and then go, oh my God, I got to hang on to this. You don't make your next $100,000 or achieve your next business thing. And then you don't sit there going, oh my God, I got to hang on to this because this means that now I'm free, now I'm happy, now I'm fulfilled. No, you realize that's just an expression of something that you already have. And when you realize that, as I said, fulfillment will not own you. So I think one of the things that you want to start to feel into, if I can leave you with something that I think's starting to make this more practical for you, is to ask yourself questions like, do you feel tense or spacious doing this? When you start to look at all the things in your life, like, do you feel spacious when you're doing these things or in these relationships? Would you still do some of these things if no one noticed? Good question. Am I trying to get something or express something? Remember, feeling unfulfilled and coming from lack and need is trying to attain something. When you're fulfilled, you're expressing something. So am I trying to get something or express something? Do I feel like I'm running out of time? That's a good question to always ask yourself, because if you're in time, you're being driven by fear and lack, right? And probably a really big question is my worth tied up in is my worth, my self-worth tied up in what I achieve and my results and my outcomes? Am I tied to that? It's a really good question. Just to make it simple, tension equals survival. So if you're feeling tight, you're feeling overwhelmed, it equals survival. If you're feeling spacious, you're feeling at peace, there's an effortlessness, that's living. I'm just trying to simplify it for you from an energetic place. Okay. So, for me, I hope that this is giving you a bit of insight and some good questions so you can get honest with yourself and realize that you don't need to burn your life down. You don't need to go and find a new identity. You need honesty about where you're coming from, and if that's important to you, and you realize at the moment that you stop trying to survive life, life starts meeting you and things start to change, then I invite you to come and do a little bit of the work. I've got a school where I support people in this, and I've got a free program in there called Get Unstuck. I'll leave a link below, but come and have a look. There's a lot more in depth I go into to some of these questions, and also energetically how to live and experience this work. So yeah, hope that's been of support for you. There's lots more that I'll be sharing here on YouTube, also on my other socials. But as I said, jump into the school. It's free. I'm in there every other day. Yeah, feel free to jump in. All right, lots of love. See you guys. Ciao.